Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Secrets of a Witch podcast with me, Sabrina Scott, where I talk all about... You guys know the speech by now. It's so funny because this speech kind of happened naturally. Like I didn't pre-write it or pre-plan it or anything. But as this podcast keeps bumbling along, it's just been what stuck, I guess. So... Here we are on the Secrets of a Witch podcast, talking all about life, love, healing, witchcraft, magic, spirituality, tarot, mediumship, feminine energy, and everything in between. Happy autumn day. It is Saturday when I'm recording this. My cat is sitting in the window looking super cute and looking outside at the cat that's wandering around outside. And I can hear all of the leaves rustling, and there's something so soothing for me about that, just listening to like the leaves rustle and move as the wind blows through them, feeling the crisp air come into my apartment from outside, and just feeling kind of cozy indoors. Like definitely is not sandals weather anymore. It is like the weather of putting more effort when putting on shoes, and that's the one thing I don't like about fall. But anyway, was not going to do a podcast episode today, but I got a DM on Instagram with a question, and instead of answering it one-on-one, I was like, this is going to be a really good podcast topic. So in the honor of my Tarot Without Bullshit course relaunching on Tuesday, October 24th, just around the corner, I guess I've been getting some questions in my DMs about tarot specifically. And so this question basically was about cleansing your cards under the moon and how the moon being in different signs affect cleansing the cards and the cards in general, and then also how do the eclipses affect our cards. And so I find this question super interesting. I have so much to say, and probably what I have to say is going to be a little bit surprising, so I'll just warn you guys. So my controversial take is that we actually really don't have to cleanse our tarot decks that often. I know, shocking. It's so interesting because I feel like a lot of Western magic and kind of Wicca stuff, not all of it, but a lot of it is so emphasized on cleansing everything all the time, 24/7, and purification and all of this. And I think there's some historical reasons and cultural reasons for all of those hang-ups and this obsession with cleansing. And, to be fair, I do a lot of cleansing myself. I do recommend, constant protection work and constant, self-cleansing work. I do recommend all of that for folks who need it, which most of us do. But it's so interesting because with the cards, I actually don't really almost ever cleanse my tarot decks. Almost ever. I can't even remember the last time that I did. And so I think it's so interesting because I feel like sometimes people think that they have to cleanse their deck all the time, especially if they're working with it to read for other people. Because I think some people have this idea of oh, well, if everyone has touched my deck, then if I'm going to use it for myself and work with it for myself, then I need to cleanse it of the vibes. And I just don't really think that's true or necessary. So let me just unpack this a bit because I'm sure you guys are scratching your heads. So, okay. So it's so interesting because I actually got a old Rider-Waite-Smith deck gifted to me a few months back. And even though this is probably the first printing of it actually, from the new edition of the old edition. So basically it would have been printed in the 70s. A long tarot history there. I won't bore you guys with it. But so the original deck was printed in I think 1907 or something like that. But the first US game systems version, as far as my memory serves, and this could be wrong, I think was printed in the 1970s. So anyway, I have an original of that. And so I guess now that is 55 years old, something like that, 50 years old. Math is not my strong suit. And so you would think, right? I think a lot of people would assume that the first thing I would have done when I got that deck was to cleanse it because of so many other people probably touched it, and that was my cat sneezing. How cute. I think a lot of people would have made that assumption, like, oh, okay, she got this ancient deck, she probably is cleansing it to, like, rid it of the vibes of other people, but I actually did not do that. I did not. And so why, you guys might be wondering, and the reason for that, because I felt like the energy of the deck was already really, really good. Like, I felt like the deck had a great energy to it. I felt like it had a good vibe. I felt like we became kind of instant friends and were meant to have our paths cross. And so and that was like my cat shaking her head like a dog. She's got a little bell. So if anyone's wondering what those weird noises are, that's what's going on. And that is Choya, who I've been posting about a lot lately on Instagram. She's been my little monster. But anyway, I didn't cleanse it because there was just no need, right? It didn't come with any bad vibes. Like, if it felt kind of bad vibey, I probably would have, or left it outside under the moon or in the earth for a few weeks or something. But honestly, I didn't feel the need to do that. Like, the energy felt like stable. It felt solid. It felt friendly. It felt like its own spirit kind of coming to hang out with me. And so since I felt that out, I felt like it kind of would have been rude to cleanse the deck, because it was coming to me with such good vibes. Like, there was nothing to really cleanse. Like, I could have cleansed it and even rid it of those good energies as well. But for me, I was like, I don't feel any bad energies. I feel like we're going to get along. And so I'm just going to keep this. Right. And so I think sometimes people go overboard with the cleansing and do like the antibiotics version of cleansing, where it's like the antibiotics, when we take them, they get rid of like everything. They get rid of our good bacteria and our bad bacteria. If there's any scientists listening to this, I'm sorry if I'm explaining this wrong, but antibiotics just like wipe out everything, right? Which is, I think, why we're supposed to take probiotics and all of that when we're taking antibiotics, to make sure that our bodies don't just like totally get fucked up due to the complete overhaul that the antibiotics are doing kind of indiscriminately of everything, right? They get rid of everything, good and bad. And so I think sometimes people go overboard with the cleansing, right? And they get rid of the bad vibes, yes, but also the good energies too. And so to me, it just seems a little bit unnecessary, right? Like, if you get a deck that's a gift from somebody and you do feel like it has some bad vibes, then by all means, like, go for it. But I think generally speaking, otherwise it's not necessary, right? Because just like our gut microbiome, and over my life, I've had like a few different things that have completely wiped out my gut microbiome. And so I had to spend many years and many different naturopathic pills and many probiotics and many this and many that, working slowly but surely on rebuilding that gut intestinal flora, right? Like, it's been a slog, but I've done it, right? Like, knock on wood. But that is kind of the same thing as with the tarot deck, right? Like, we are working with it again and again. We're building our relationship with it. And over time, it's kind of like building our gut microbiome, right? So every time we work with our deck regularly, it's like taking probiotics. It's going to build that up, right? And so if we're spending all these years working with our tarot deck and building up the energies, building up the relationship, when we just do regular cleansings all the time, it's like totally demolishing all of that good stuff that we've spent so much time working on. And so I feel like it's generally not necessary, because you want the energies to build up, right? At least that's how I feel about it. I think the one time in the last, 10 years, 15 years that I've cleansed a deck was when I was reading for someone at an event. And this is probably TMI, but like, I'll tell you guys a little bit about it anyway. So great time reading, but the last client I had this evening chose my most expensive reading at the time and clearly came into the situation very skeptical, like, prove it to me type of energy, and was just like very negative and kind of insulting and like, show me what we got kind of thing. So I did the reading, and the reading pretty much called this guy out, and it was a guy. And so we did the reading, and the whole time I was doing the reading, I felt like sick to my stomach, like, because his energy was just like so bad, honestly. Like, it was just like a dark cloud of energy. And so, like, could I have protected myself against that? Like, probably, but to be honest with you, it was the end of a really long bunch of hours at this really hectic market event, and so I was just like not operating at my best in terms of like the energetic protection and all of that. And so as soon as the reading finished, I like ran to the bathroom and like was sick basically. And I think that was because of this guy's energy and how it affected my body, and like it was just a bad energy, you know. And so I've had that happen a few times before, not very often, but it is something that I do notice, right? If I'm around someone whose energy is so like viscerally bad, it does make me feel physically ill. Usually I'm able to protect myself to kind of guard against that. But again, there's just some times where, you know, I got a leak in my protection, I'm exhausted, whatever it happens to be. Either that or this person's bad vibe is so strong that it's like blasted through my kind of typical protection stuff, right? And so what was really good is my body was able to just cleanse that out of myself pretty much immediately, and I was able to shake it off. But after that, I definitely did some cleansing stuff on my deck I was working with him with, right? And so the thing is that like that type of situation is so few and far between, right? And I'm speaking even as a professional tarot reader, someone who allows people to touch the cards. And yes, it's the same deck I work with for myself. Like people touch it, it's fine. People put their energies into it, it's fine. Do I cleanse after every person? No, I don't, never have. Like I will shuffle, do a little shuffle, switch up the vibes. But the way that I work with my cards and the way that I work with clients is as such that it like there's no reason to do a deep dive like antibiotic thing every 2 seconds. And so I really don't think that there needs to be a big emphasis on cleansing your deck all the time. Like again, unless it's a situation like what I've explained, or like yeah, like maybe you do a reading for someone and you get in a big fight about it, or I don't know, someone who got you the deck you're working with, you end up breaking up, and like, you know what, I've even been in that situation before where someone got me a deck and we were dating and then we were not dating anymore, and I still didn't feel the need to cleanse that deck from that person's energy. It was just like, okay, whatever, moving on. Like I would focus a lot more on your own personal protection and boundary work, spiritual boundary work around your own person, around your own being, around your own body and mind and your spirit. And I would also focus much more time on doing that cleansing and boundary work and protective work around your home where you live and spend most of your time. For me, that is where people's energies should go when it comes to working with the moon and cleansing and protection and getting rid of nasty vibes and all that stuff. Because I think personally our decks don't tend to latch on to a lot of bad energies, like except for extenuating circumstances, which I do feel are quite rare, you know? And so this is kind of why I don't think we really need to cleanse our decks that often. And maybe I'll do another episode about specifically how to cleanse your deck, though I do talk a bit about this in my Tarot Without Bullshit online course that is coming up shortly, again on Tuesday. And one of the interesting things in that course that I'm doing is I'm also opening it up for group coaching. So that means me coaching y'all about these very unique questions in a group environment. And so if you do have questions about stuff like this, you know, like maybe you do feel wonky vibes with your deck and you do feel like it really needs to be cleansed because the vibes are fucked up, then that is absolutely something that I do know how to walk folks through, because every situation really is one of a kind and every situation really is unique. So it's a little bit challenging to make like broad sweeping recommendations just because everyone's situation is so different, right? Like a deck is a being. A deck, each and every single deck has its own energy. Even if you and I purchase the exact same deck, like the Rider-Waite-Smith, let's say, even if we both had the same printing, you know, like the energies are going to be really different based on that deck's journey and how each of those decks journey to each of our individual households, right, and our own unique experiences. And so that's why I think it can be really hard to give this one-off like broad stroke spiritual advice and magical advice and all of this. But if you are interested in, there's so many different things I have to say, but if you're interested in just reading a little bit about shifting energy, I do have a whole gigantic chapter on that in my second book, Curse and Cure Magic for Real Life. So if you're in a position where you maybe can't afford a course right now or whatever, that would be one place to look for some techniques of how to shift energy and how to work with energy and shift, let's say, things from bad to good or weird to cleansed. I do talk a lot about that in that book. And then if you want all the more advanced information about how to work with all of this stuff, then stay tuned for my Tarot Without Bullshit course, which is coming up. And there will be self-study versions of this as well as hybrid, like self-study plus the group coaching component. So keep your eyes and ears peeled, my friends. And of course, I have to plug the workshops that are coming up at the end of the month. Tarot for Mediumship and then Ancestor Magic 101. You can link to signing up for all those things in the description of this episode. So that's all I have to say on this for now, my friends. But tarot, it really is both more simple and more complicated than people think it is. And the things that you think are complicated are the simple things, and the things that most people think are simple are actually the complicated things. So it's a unique thing. It's never ending. It's beautiful. It's grounding. I love it. So anyway, stay tuned. Mark your calendars. October 24th, Tuesday, for Tarot Without Bullshit relaunch. Yay. Anyway, friends, happy Saturday, happy October, happy tarot reading, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.